Happy holidays, Christopher. How are you doing on the
Yes.
holiday?
Oh, I'm working on the big buildup. It's almost like a volcanic eruption as we advance toward Christmas and then New Year's. And here in the Midwest, especially in the Chicago, Minneapolis region over on the Great Lakes, we have very Christmassy weather. It's been cold, and now we're getting a little warm stretch, and it looks like it's going to be moderate for the holidays, but it still feels Christmassy. Snow on the ground, that sort of thing.
Wonderful. What a good vibe to be in. Unfortunately, it does not feel like Christmas here. It was 80 degrees the last 2 days, and then it dropped heavily today, and it's just messing with the whole vibe here. But I do got my Christmas tree up, so I remember that it's Christmas every day, and I am looking forward to this week that we're going to talk about, because what a Christmas are we in store for here. Lots going on.
Yeah, it really seems very appropriate with the holidays, the way things are starting to align right now. We had the beautiful full moon that's right behind us, and that was also the first day of Saturnalia, the old celebration of Saturn's influence on we Earthlings. And by the old Roman and Greek tradition, Saturn was the ruler of money and finance, and it was also seen as a very benevolent planet for a lot of different elements in day-to-day living. So it's kind of interesting how Saturn, in a lot of modern interpretation, has become somewhat malefic. And it really is important that people not have a hard judgment about the activity of any of the planets. I talk to people and they're saying, oh, when Saturn goes over my natal sun, my world falls apart. Well, Saturn is just the disciplinarian. It's a school teacher, and it's saying, okay, you got to read these paragraphs from this book. And so the celebration of Saturnalia, which I guess was a week long back in Roman times, was embracing that idea that with hard work and with commitment and with tenacity, the influence of Saturn will lead you to a higher vision and a higher outcomes of life.
Yeah, and that's really the vibe that we've gone through for a while now. I mean, we had a solar eclipse on Saturn. We had the North Node on Saturn. I mean, this is a lot of karmic energy dealing with Saturn. And here we are, as well as we're getting ready to step into Capricorn, which is a Saturn-ruled department store. It's a lot going on here with building blocks and making sure that we do the right thing. One thing about Capricorn is, I don't think it's not so much about justice as it is about doing what's necessary to get you to your destination. And in our lives right now, with how much Saturn energy there is, and because we do have Pluto here, it's a big part of our lives. There, we got you back.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know what happened.
It's all good. We're still here. At least we got back on the trail, I mean, that's really what I think is a good way of describing our lives, is even when we fall off course or whatever, everything, we need to have that, it is a sober energy, but I think it's required to get back on the trail. You don't want to be lost. You don't want to be off track. You want to get back on track now in your life. That's really what this Christmas is about.
It absolutely is. And I had my little Uranian moment there when I kind of fell out of sync with the universe for 30 seconds. But that just is a reminder. Uranus is going direct, people. So make sure you're paying attention, because it's still going to be squaring good old Pluto and Capricorn. And so that's background stuff. I think the holidays are going to be really filled with a lot of epiphanies, a lot of bright moments. But at the same time, you got to put money in the parking meter. If you're going to walk away from your car for a little while, you may come back and find it's been towed, and that's that Uranian moment, as Uranus is still exerting its influence in this dynamic balance within the universe. But
yeah, what a balance is that?
Yeah, it's been goofy crazy, and it's going to have that serendipitous thing, I think, throughout the holidays and into the new year. But the big event for all of us, I don't know if you have noticed it, David, but here in Wisconsin and Illinois, as the days are slowing down, slowing down, slowing down, getting shorter, 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 we're beginning to see that early shift of the light. And the light that's coming through is much whiter and much brighter. So as we go through summer and autumn, the tone, the light tone, shifts into the yellow range. And now we're right on the verge of the solstice. And we're getting this brilliant white light. The shadows are blue instead of brown. There's an intensity coming into this cycle of restoration as the sun begins to get itself ready to give us longer days. So we're starting off the week in advance with this magnificent shift forward and the solstice for the winter. What do you think of that one?
I think it's divine, especially with a Venus retrograding in Capricorn. Very rare event, and it's very biblical, you know, because we are dealing with this Capricorn energy, which has a lot to do with the reason why we celebrate Christmas. But even funnier is we have this cross forming in cardinal energy, which definitely deals with the same sort of cross, I would say. And on top of all of that, we're dealing with a 40-day, 40-night period we begin in, right at the beginning of the solstice. So if you, and you know how interesting this is happening a year exactly from when we did our big 2012 Mayan calendar shift. There's a lot of really powerful synchronicities happening. And this is a solstice to remember. I mean, to see our Venus retrograde at the same time happen really signals, it has a lot to do with the values of our life, our plans, getting back on the trail, focusing on that Saturn energy, learning deep lessons, doing our spiritual work, and there's a reward at the end of all of it. So even though it can be hard when you describe the paragraphs that you're reading and the research that you're doing and the writing and the essays, you know, there's something to say about a degree that comes out of all that work. You know, people who become doctors and everything, they spend their whole lives going to school until they reach an achievement like that. That does pay off. And in our lives, I think we spend this solstice looking at what we're ready to achieve, looking at what we're ready to accomplish, and ready to put that work in. And it's going to be a test to see who's ready to put the work in, who's taking it seriously, and who's not.
Exactly. And it's interesting that as Venus is, you know, slowing to that stationary position and then getting ready to go retrograde, we've got Saturn, which is coming out of that extended retrograde and gaining its momentum. And the two are going to be moving toward each other in a really nice tight sextile. And whenever we see those two planets interacting, it means that you're taking the lessons you've been working on, the Saturnian influence, and you're grounding it into your day-to-day living experience. The inner planets are the planets that reflect what's going on a very deep personal level. So we've got inner planet, outer planet, teacher, and life expression, life force indicator moving toward each other. And there's kind of like a spiritual communion going on now as these two planets are reapproaching each other. And rather than from the angle of Venus moving forward and conjuncting Saturn, as it did a couple of months ago, now we're seeing Venus turn around and head back towards Saturn and say, was there anything in the lesson plan here that I've missed? So this is going to be a very ripe opportunity for the next 3 to 4 weeks for people to really finalize the lessons that they were working on over the last 6 months.
Yeah, this is a powerful one when it deals with that, because not only are all these events happening, but you know, we've got this big T-square forming with Mars. Mars coming into the party really heavily as it begins its opposition to Uranus, which can be very, very powerful. You know, some people look at this as very warlike, or some people look at this as anger, which can happen. But I think because you and I tend to look at our more beautiful aspects and tend to look at the positivity in all this, this is giving us a really big opportunity to really move forward in our lives in exciting and powerful ways that make big impacts. And when you mix that with this solstice, and when you mix that with Venus retrograding, all happening in Capricorn, you're dealing with the ingredients for really now putting together something important, and you stepping into it, and you embedding this into your consciousness, you embedding this in your life, and making it real. And like you say with Saturn and Venus, what a connection that these two planets want to bring is to make things real, to make manifestations come true. And I think there's going to be a lot of rearranging of teams and partnerships, but I think we're going to move into that as we step into the new year. I think that this weekend and in this week that we begin is the seeding, the seeding of this, the walking into the party, you know, tasting the appetizers, starting to feel out this new energy. And we get to do it with our families around us, our friends around us. We get to do it with, you know, this feeling of hope that Mercury still gives us as it finishes up in Sagittarius this week. You know, it adds to the flavoring of that positivity, even though we've shifted into Capricorn. Although it's going to move out really fast, I think that we step into Christmas with this plan that we all have individually, that we're ready to move forward with in our lives. And we need to be careful, though, to not be maybe too hostile this Christmas, or maybe push too much of what we want on others that surround us, because this can be a very intense energy, and I think we need to partner with this energy instead of oppose each other with this energy.
Exactly, and it's going to be kind of interesting watching how Mercury is chasing the Sun into Capricorn. So once we have moved through the weekend, the first part of next week and Christmas Day and Christmas Eve are going to have this very, very strong Sun-Mercury influence going on. And even though they're somewhat offline in that they're not in a hard aspect to anything, they're kind of in that bridge zone where they're not actually really touching Mars, Uranus, or Pluto yet. So it's almost like get you through the holidays before they actually really advance and mobilize and start to create a little bit of dynamic tension toward the end of the week. And that's when communication is going to really get very intense. And I think that there may even be some significant shifts that open up for people as we move through that stage between Christmas and New Year's. So if you're looking for a career change, if you're looking for some kind of new place to hang out, new friends to engage with, this is going to be that time frame when those doors could open unexpectedly, and normally you wouldn't have that expectation of like, oh, a new job just showed up between Christmas and New Year's. You know, you usually think in terms of those types of moves in your life after the New Year, but opportunity is going to be rife as we get in that mid-zone between Christmas Day itself and the beginning of the new year.
Yeah, if you want to pull the Destiny card, now's the time. I think this is such a karmic energy coming in with Venus retrograding. It does do this 40-day, 40-night thing. I mean, there's definitely a significance to it. And the last time it happened in Capricorn was December 2005 into January 2006. Those 2 months right there was a very karmic period. If you want to be a nerd and go back and start to connect the completion of that story, you can do that, and I actually encourage it. I think that we step into this week after the solstice comes this weekend, and we have Venus retrograde. You know, we've got the moon in Virgo, which is going to trine Mercury, the Sun, Pluto, as it all is moving into Capricorn, which gives us some strength emotionally. I think it gives us the ability to ground. It's going to ground things. It's going to make things real. It's going to be like, holy cow, it's Christmas. And, you know, it could be one of those things where it's like, well, there's a million things going at work, but Christmas is around the corner, and it could become frustrating. There could be things that we've got to do that we want to move forward with, but, you know, there's a lot of tension around action. There's a lot of tension around, you know, making sure that you step into this electricity that we talked about. It's intense, but yet the energy personally is really wanting to ground us. And I think it's important to step into this week grounded, without a hot head, with learning to put maybe your tempers, or learning to take this intensity and channel it correctly, ground in it correctly, and, pay attention to your environment, and take things slow, even though, I think there's going to be a lot of intensity this week. I think this will be a week where you're ready for this change in your life. And it may be frustrating that you can't make some changes because it's the holidays. It could be one of those things. And for others, it could be a moment of release. I think this is a week when you get this big T-square happening, and you're with all these family members, and especially as we move towards Christmas Eve and into Christmas. I mean, I don't know if you've really looked at it too much, but it's pretty gnarly to see the moon is going to be leaving Virgo and coming into Libra. And I think that is a powerful place, because also Christmas Eve, Mercury comes into Capricorn, that there's a huge release Christmas Eve and Christmas, connecting with our love, connecting with our friends, connecting with people in a deeper way than usual, and really having to, face all this, as it's going to be an exact, T-square with Mars opposing Uranus, exactly on Christmas Eve and into Christmas Day when the moon humps over Mars. And I mean, talk about some events happening for the events that happen in our lives on those 2 days, a more powerful one than usual.
It is going to be a very energized Christmas Eve, and that's the thing that I always focus on, put my attention on whenever you have Mars active, is that it is an energizer. Now, that energy, if you're taking it and utilizing it properly, it's going to come out in a very benevolent way. In other words, it's going to get you down the road and to grandmother's house for Christmas Eve party. If you're resisting that energy and you block it or bottle it up, it's going to shift over to the other side, and you're going to pull in that Uranian energy, and so that could be very chaotic. So, use the planetary energies, observe them and use them in a way that is appropriate, and you can consciously do that. You can set out to have, a good day and go with the Mars flow and use that to get ahead of the traffic. Start an hour earlier. Don't get in the thick of the traffic and then try to bulldoze your way through. Use the energy wisely by looking at where the planets are headed and then taking the necessary steps to go with that natural flow of the universe. Because as much as you may want to, you're never going to really be able to force the universe to go with your flow. So you might as well, get with the program and have a really great Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
I think you brought it up exactly the way that it should be brought up, which is navigating through traffic correctly, not barging your way through, especially as I think people are going to try and get their Christmas shopping done here at the end of the week, kind of like me a little bit here. It can become very intense and difficult. And, I hate to bring this up, but this time last year we had that really intense shooting at the school with a bunch of children and everything. And, we're passing that and now doing a year from that. And, I think as a planet and as individuals, we need to do our best to, especially around this time period, keep our tempers under control. Mars is getting ready to come into a shadow period very soon, and it's getting ready for its retrograde in March. And, we're dealing with a karmic zone with relationships, with our masculine feminine energy, actually, if you want to be quite honest. And, making sure that we do the proper things in our life, especially as Mars is a diplomat when it comes into Libra. And we need to be, fair and just. And as it opposes Uranus and Aries, which is the me, the intensity of anger, and on a wild card here, no matter what happens, no matter if, your cousin says something to you at the dinner table on Christmas night, or there's some pressure in the family from that one family member that's doing that, these are going to be the situations I think that are highlighted this Christmas. Are people's problems, their issues, their struggles, and it's kind of like, how do we all work together? How can we be diplomats together? How can we work out issues together? This can be one of those crazy events where, gosh, people rally together in your family to help you out. you know? But I think you need to be clear. I think you need to communicate. And I think you need to be vulnerable. I think you need to allow this vulnerability. And sometimes people can play the ego card too much, where I think it's time to play more the love card and the relationship card, and make a plan for yourself. Get back to that teaching role you describe of Saturn, and make something that's going to let you achieve something, and open your emotions up. You know, Jupiter and Saturn are still in their trine through this week, and it is about opening up.
Exactly. And one of the other things that's going on in the heavens that's, again, very conciliatory, it has the potential, if you incorporate the energy into your own personal game plan, is the activity of Chiron over there. It's sitting right about 10 degrees Pisces with a nice tight sextile to Pluto in Capricorn. So we've got that energy of the wounded healer coming onto the field also during the holidays. And a lot of people have a lot of family dysfunction that happens every year right around this time of year, starting with Thanksgiving, running through the New Year. And if there were ever a series of configurations for healing these old issues, this would be the season when we can accomplish a lot in advancing in that direction. You take the energy of Chiron, you take the transformative and deep-seated energy of Pluto. I mean, this is the planet that represents Vulcan and the depths of all of the emotional range being churned up and being pushed to that volcanic eruption. So you've got two very strong essences that are becoming available to you, and if you utilize these essences during this holiday season, a lot of things that have been out of whack for many holidays can all be brought together and see a clear resolution, see a new beginning, and see an exchange of love that heals the old wounds. So again, you have to be willing to put your intention into utilizing the energies of the planet in this way, but you can achieve a lot of success because the planets are trying their best to open these doors for you.
Yeah, opening up unique doors that don't get opened much. That's really what it says. And if you look around at these outer planets like Pluto, how you described in connection with Chiron, it's interesting that Pluto comes to 11 degrees, which this is where Pluto was when it went retrograde. We have not felt Pluto past 11. So Pluto's coming around for its second time at 11 degrees, and then we have Neptune at 3 degrees, which finally comes into 3. And that means that Pluto and Neptune are moving pretty fast and finally getting their speed. And how interesting, Neptune came to 3 degrees and then went retrograde years ago, and this is the last time that we're going to see Neptune at 3, as it moves on its journey up to 7 degrees. So I know this might sound like nerd talk, but what this is meaning in our outer world, our outer planets, more likely, our psychological selves, this deep, intense karmic levels, we're finishing up quite a lot of karmic energy, of stuff that we've been reviewing a lot in the last couple years, and really starting to move forward as we step into this process. And I think these 40 days and 40 nights are ones to pay attention to, because on January 31st, when Venus goes direct again, this is also when Venus will come to around this degree where Pluto is, where it will conjunct. So I think we're going to set a lot of things in motion here during this holiday that by the end of January and in this new year will be brought back up and be completed. And again, I also want to bring up there's a new moon happening, on New Year's Eve, which is in this placement of where Pluto is. So this is going to be a really powerful couple weeks that really are highlighting so much of the events that are going to happen, and I think they're going to be more intense as we go through this, but I think we begin this doorway as we just step into this weekend. I mean, right away as Venus retrogrades and a new solstice comes in, this is cardinal energy at its finest, season beginning. And in Capricorn, this is when the Earth begins. It's the only cardinal sign that's Earth. So we must ground now. We must build. We must grow. And we must do something with this energy. And I don't think it's about wasting time. is as much as taking the right steps necessary in your life that you can to fix it or make it better.
Exactly. And, you know, the goat, the Capricorn goat likes to be on the side of the face of the mountain at 10,000 feet altitude and clinging to the side of you know, this rocky cliff. And I think that that's the other aspect of this, the sun moving into Capricorn, is tenacity. You know, you know that it may take your entire lifetime to get to the top of the mountain, but that Capricorn tenacity is going to be very much highlighted. And with that new moon that's going to be coming up in a week and a half, we're really going to see a lot of people who are in it for the long haul start to gain momentum, start to get to a higher level. So yeah, it's fascinating how this, all of 2013 has been a cycle of frustration, a cycle of blockage, going back, re-reviewing the lessons. I mean, it's been a year that has caused a lot of us to grow through struggle and strain and, you know, that heartbreaking, heart-rending type of struggle. But at the same time, 2014, what we're being beckoned toward is looking brighter and more filled with good promise and more filled with success than we could ever have realized as we were stuck in the middle of, you know, the god-awful grand squares that were going on in the middle of the summer of this year. So 2013 to 2014 is going to be a big, significant shift astrologically, psychologically. It's going to be a good season, I think, that we're coming into.
Yeah, and I've been saying it in my horoscopes. I mean, there is a heavy amount of karma in our partnerships and our plans, and you know, there's a huge opportunity here for people to reach some very important places and to climb their ladders and to make some decisions. You know, I think one thing about Capricorn, which makes this so funny and ironic, is it's the most, you know, it's the opposite of Cancer. It's where we must leave emotion behind and step into, you know, decision making or step into accomplishment, which, you know, emotion can sometimes hinder or make difficult, but it is also emotion which forces us to get on the trail and move forward. So it's a very weird energy, Capricorn Cancer, because even though both are so opposite, they both need each other in both ways. And Capricorn is in a position as it opposes Jupiter and Cancer, where we're trying to expand our feelings and we're trying to grow. There also needs to be the remembering that this is life, it's real, and get to work and take and do something about it. You know, you can't be a crybaby too long. And that's what I think makes this so difficult, is this Capricorn energy that comes in very, very intensely, especially with this new moon, is, you know, how do we do this intensity and move forward in our lives and make these plans happen and do all these things that we want to do and fix our life with making sure that we're not overly emotional, and to make sure that we listen to our emotions but maybe not too much. And it's a very weird cycle, you know. You can't be too much of a baby through this cycle, but yet you need to kind of be one, which is kind of an interesting paradigm.
Yes, and you know, it is very Sagittarian in a lot of ways. What you just described, I would say, it's the butterfly that you know, is attracted to these deeper emotional wells, that wants to go play in those deeper ranges, and yet has that butterfly mentality. You know, float away, get away from all that quicksand, and then we flop over into Capricorn, and all of a sudden things get very intense and very real. So anyway, let's take a look at the cards for this coming week.
Yeah, let's do it.
And the first card up, which is very appropriate, you know, as we're looking at moving into the weekend, we've got the solstice, and what have we got here? We've got the lovers, the sun and the moon, and creating that balance and that harmony. Also, the lovers card I always read as magnetic attraction, and that's exactly what begins to happen as we move into that Capricorn timeline and the holidays. we're going to be attracting a lot of people into our lives. We're going to be attracted to other people. So it's going to be a season of coming together, of joining forces, of seeking union in the best possible ways. Then we're moving over the weekend into that period of the King of Cups, opening our heart, opening our personal realm to friends and family, and working on sitting down at the table on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day and having that feast and enjoying all the richness of life here in this material world. As we continue to advance into the week, we begin to realize something significant has occurred. The Ten of Swords, an old part of our existence, is dead. It is gone and has to be released. A new dawn is appearing, and of course that's going to be moving us toward 2014 and the dawn of a new year. But we've also got that new dawn of the solstice. So really pushing away from 2013 saying, yeah, I learned those lessons, not going to go back there anymore, it beat the hell out of me. Then we get out there and we move through the world with a new sense of being at home in our place. You know, we're fulfilling our place in the universe. And that doesn't mean dominating the world, but that means participating with the natural unfolding of the way the universe operates. And the final outcome is, ironically and somewhat paradoxically, control. The more we seek to flow with the universe, the more we actually gain control over the circumstances in our life. So by the end of this holiday, the first part of the holiday season, the Christmas holiday itself, I think a lot of people are going to learn some very, very profound lessons about how to take the elements in their lives under control and create a good resolution that heals and fulfills and rewards us. So cards are being pretty spot on, pretty intense.
So spot on. A Venus retrograde with the Lovers card, and then, you know, the King energy, which I think is so important as we step into this new portal. You know, I like to call it a portal. It's King of Cups, these emotions that are going to be involved with so much of what's turning and what's changing. And then that Ten of Swords is very Capricorn. Like, don't waste your time doing things over and over and over again. You know, it's like stabbing the body over and over again. Like, do something productive that, you know, will make something of it and be alive in your life. I think this is where, even though we're at the holidays, there's a lot of work to do during the holidays. And this is work inside. We do have the moon, which is, you know, it's going to be waning through this whole holiday period, which I think is good for us, even though, you know what, we're going to release and let go. I think it's Capricorn's work is in the plan more than the work. You know, it's the Capricorn that makes it to the top of the hill really has planned out the journey pretty well, has conserved its energy correctly, and at the right moment seized it. That's important in our lives right now as we set ourselves up for something great. And I would use this New Year's, well, of course we'll do a nice New Year's Eve one for this, but for this New Year's, it's about getting ready for a big plan this year.
Yes, leaving 2013 behind and embracing 2014 with enthusiasm and a lot of hope and expectation. So what's the kitty cat going to be getting for Christmas this year? Do you have like 6 or 8 presents under that Christmas tree yet?
You know, I kind of gave him an early Christmas. I actually went today and bought him like 5 things. So he's been getting spoiled, you know. It's his first Christmas. Babies on their first Christmas get pretty spoiled. But
that's true.
Typical toys, feathers, you know. Actually, I got him a laser pointer that's automatic that can sit on my desk and do laser pointing automatically and make cool designs in the floor.
That's perfect.
So, yeah.
Well,
what about you? Are you doing anything fun for Christmas?
Just hanging with the family, and we have, you know, kind of an open house situation. We have dozens of people come through, and good food, good companionship and the exchange of presents. So it's going to be a glorious Christmas, I think.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm doing too. Nothing crazy. Just good old fashioned, good family stuff and great energy. So I'm really excited.
Well, and I think we both are sending out that positive vibe to all the people who plug into our weekly broadcast. That we do sincerely hope that you have a fantastic Christmas and have that enthusiasm that comes along with the generation of the new year, because this is going to be your year to really rock and roll.
Yes, it is. And thank you so much, Christopher, for another great week. And I can't wait to end the 2013 energy with you next week.
Yes, we're going to have a fabulous end of the year shebang kind of show. Well, thanks, David. It was great hanging out with you, and I'll be seeing you after Christmas.
I will see you after Christmas. Take care.
You too.